like the next 2 weeks of my life completely free now, so who knows?
You might be out of a job,
Mm,
effective
well,
whenever this
no.
comes up.
I mean, not just that, but also like, yeah, it's a whole thing. Don't worry about it. It'll be fine.
Um, oh my God. So why did you reveal yourself? What's the point?
420 posts.
But come on, there's got to be like,
Okay, yeah. It was always going to be a reveal at the end. I always wanted to kind of end with it. And then, yeah, the number 420 is just one of the funniest things in the world to me. And so I thought that was a good end.
and how did you come up with the idea? Like, oh my God, I remember when you first started posting, oh, people were fucking pissed and like
Mm,
reporting the account and they wanted to be
hmm
taken down for hate speech and
hmm
like,
Which was really wild to me, the whole like hate speech thing, because I like to think that I'm a little more woke than that. And I was like, there were moments where I was like, Jesus, am I saying things that are awful? And I'd have to go back through and be like, no, I think this is fine.
I just, I don't know, like, why not? You could have taken this so far.
Mm,
Like you were gaining so much traction.
yeah, but hey, like the quote says, you either die a hero or
I get.
I really didn't want it to get weird. And I could kind of see like with some of the followers that I was gaining traction on, it was starting to be like wine blog accounts and like a whole whack. Like I would say I have at least 200 followers that are just real estate agents, which for me was really
Oh,
weird.
that's weird.
Yeah, that's not what I was trying to do.
Yeah.
It was always supposed to be for like, I mean, originally it was for blowing off steam and then just kind
Yeah.
of like hanging out with industry members. And then it started to turn into something else. And that's not what I wanted it to turn into. So I would rather pull the plug than have it turn into that.
So did you, I mean, obviously your employers are aware of you.
We haven't had that talk yet, actually. I still need to break that to them, but I don't think they know what a meme is. So that's going to be a very awkward conversation. But
Oh man.
we're dealing with some other stuff right now. I don't want to throw that on top of them in the middle of
Fair enough. By the
our.
way, um, yeah, like God, I had no idea that you were on the island. Like I thought it
Mhm.
was, oh my God, people thought it was Grant Biggs. They thought it
Yeah,
was Felix from
yep,
Tantalus.
yep,
Everybody had it pegged for Matt Dumaine in the beginning.
yep,
Like you did a really good job of really like playing that up.
yep.
You
It,
must have had so much fun with that.
shifting the focus, like the whole smoke and mirrors thing was one of my favorite things, just to like when it, and even there was that brief moment where everyone thought it was a Raj and I was like, ooh, this is kind of fun. Like who else can I put this on? And if it ever got gross, the last thing I did want was like people getting mad at someone on my behalf. I never wanted somebody actually getting like it
Well, they
got
did.
spicy there for a while, and I didn't want anybody getting like punched in the face because of some stupid shit I said. So
So I know that this was an image that you curated specifically. Like that's not obviously entirely who you are.
no, that
But
was 100% a character. Yeah, it was very, very difficult in the beginning to type that way for me, and then it ended up being like now texting. Like anytime I'm talking to my friends, I'll just like I can't spell the word "you" anymore. It's just the letter. It's always the letter.
your
It's really
keyboard just defaulted to that
yeah, it
vernacular.
has just screwed me up, man. So there's another reason why I had to drop it. Art was imitating life too much.
So were you actually like that angry at some of the people that you were calling out, like the BCWI and
Oh
like
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Anthony
yeah,
von
yeah,
Mandel and
yeah. In the beginning, there was a lot more, and that's another reason why it had to kind of cool. I'm just not as angry anymore. I think with what's happening during the pandemic and how much everybody is suffering, it probably isn't. We don't need somebody screaming at those people right now,
Mhm.
because and a lot of things have happened to make it better. But yeah, I have because of God, I got to be careful how I say this because I don't want my employers to get into any hot water. But I have seen how ineffective the BCWI can be and the BCVQA, especially when you're dealing with small producers.
Mm-hmm.
And because I've worked exclusively with a small producer my whole um, wine career,
Here.
it was really hard to watch them kind of get thrown under the bus. Like, I mean, we go way back to with the VQA of having to leave in the early days because they wouldn't support our shift from court closure to alternative closure. And then like 2 years later, they supported, I want to say it was Mission Hill. I can't remember who, but they shifted over to screw caps, or no, it was synthetic cork. And the BCVQA just rolled over, and it was one of those things where it was like, well, yeah, of course, because we're a 500 case production, so
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it was
Oh, you're
really,
that small, eh?
yeah. Our I don't even know if I should say their name. I like it's
You don't have to
kind of
say
want,
their name. It's
yeah, I
okay.
kind of want to protect them, but yeah, we're super, super, super small, and
Okay.
and a state. I mean, anyone who has done a tasting in the tasting room I run, they will
I've met
immediately
you.
know who. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
There's a couple
Well, and
people.
that's the thing. Like everybody was trying to figure out what the hell your position was. It's like, okay,
Hey man, if
French
you find
vineyard
out,
or a
tell
tasting
me because I
room.
don't know either.
Yeah. So there's a lot of people that can relate because there's sort of this, I don't know, confusion and exploitation of people, and that's what I've been looking at, right? Like, why are
Hmm.
people not paid well enough? It's
Yeah.
part and parcel with the VQA, and they
Hmm.
claim that they have no sway over the tax structures, even though that's
Yeah.
complete
Sure.
bullshit.
Okay. Yeah.
How long have you been in the industry for?
This will be my 15th harvest.
Oh wow, okay,
Yeah.
so you're like an OG.
Yeah. Yeah. I started when I was very, 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 very young. And I just kind of fell into it through a friend and ended up going, yeah, this is my harvest number 15. And I haven't been there like full time the whole time because I went away to school. I did other stuff, but I always made it back for harvest.
Okay.
Yeah. There were
um
some years where it was like I was barely part time. And then there's been years like these last 8 where, yeah, I'm doing the classic like 6, 7 days a week, agriculture worker, but
yeah,
it's a small family operation. So I
yeah.
do everything from managing the tasting room, putting up bird nets. That's what we've been doing for the last couple
Hmm.
of days,
Hmm.
which is awful. God, bird nets are awful.
Yeah, yeah,
But they
it's a
let
lot
you
of
make
labor.
wine. So yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it is. So
um
yeah,
but you're making the wine too?
no, where I would say no, I wouldn't call myself a winemaker. I think that would be unfair to our actual winemaker and assistant winemaker. But it's not like I haven't done that stuff. It's just
Hmm.
I wouldn't be comfortable being like, yeah, I'm a winemaker, especially because and this might be shocking, I have received no formal education of any kind to do with vineyards or wine. Really, again, without revealing too much of people or places, the winemaker and my employer, around the time that I started, he was pursuing his master's of wine. Um, and so I made myself available for any nights where he was popping bottles open.
Mm.
But I saw that program just destroy him, just absolutely ruin him.
Yeah,
And man, I met some folks. I met some masters of wine. Oh boy.
yeah. There's a little bit of ego.
Yeah, 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 yeah. I'm not calling anybody out. Reese, we haven't met, so that wasn't towards you. Who
No,
else?
Reese is actually really nice, and I did a great interview with him, and he was just like, I don't understand why people think that I know everything about wine. He's like, I don't know
Right.
anything. And he's
Yeah.
like, the more you know, the less you know. And he's like, and
Yeah.
that's the
Yeah.
problem with this whole certification. So,
It's grape juice. That's it. That's all.
yeah, I totally
'Cause,
agree. Yeah,
yeah. At the
there's
end of
so
the day,
much
it's grape juice.
bullshit and snobbery in the wine industry.
Mhm.
Yeah, so I don't know what else do you want to share? Like, you have the floor. Like, what message do you want to get out to the people?
God, message.
Don't hate you.
I mean, hey, if you want to be mad at me, be mad at me. I have to own everything I said. That's another part of the reason why I eventually threw my face out there is I said some stuff and I gotta take responsibility for that.
You
And
said some pretty fucking brutal stuff, like in the beginning there with Blasted Church and
that wine, I'm gonna say it again, was not good. I did not enjoy that wine. I got
Yeah.
my notes here just in case you ask me about specific wines, but I don't need to
Oh,
open
really?
on that. Yeah, yeah, no, I always have the little pink book handy. This little
Yeah,
guy
tell me what were some of your favorite reviews that you did?
for BC wine memes.
Yeah.
I mean, that I mention it all the time. The McLean Creek Chardonnay by Meyer is just like a stunning wine. I
Hmm.
will drink that forever. That Sabor that Raj and
Oh,
Anthony
from
did
Ursa Major.
was just like holy crap, that wine.
You have a pretty classical palate.
Yeah, it's weird. It goes back and forth. Because I'll be for me, uh, like I get really scared with natural and low intervention wines.
Hmm.
Because I know that is winemaking on absolute hard mode. That is as difficult as winemaking gets.
Yeah.
Um, and I think it takes a lot of courage as a winemaker to do that and then taste it and go, this is not good, and dump it. And I
Yeah.
think not a lot of people are, well, one, because they might be working for wineries that don't allow them to do that. They're not able to do it, but
Hmm.
some of them just feel obligated to do it anyway. It's what one of my big rants when I run tastings um, is about Pinot Noir and
Hmm.
what the popularity of Pinot did to the industry. And I always bring it back to the same thing that happened to Chardonnay, right? I still have people coming into our tasting room who are so variety obsessed. They are like, oh, I don't like Chard, and I think that's going back to the W set problem,
Yeah.
where we have preached varietal typicity to everyone as if it's the most important thing,
Yeah.
and then you get people jumping on a bandwagon, like like with Zinfandel for a while there,
Hmm.
where it like the market just saturates with all of this plonk, and then our consumers start to think like, oh, I don't like Pinot, it's thin. And I'm watching that happen with Pinot. I noticed it big time at I was pouring at Vic International Wine Fest last year, and I saw at least 75 people just trying to pass on everybody's Pinot. And I think natural wine is going to be next. I think we're going to ruin low intervention and natural wine. And oh, here's the shocker for you. Just okay, this is the fun one. People will know this who have done a tasting with me at the vineyard I work at. We have been making a low intervention spontaneous ferment wine since 1992. And
Mm,
I love it to death. It's my favorite wine we
nice.
make. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think that we need to make a distinction between like trendy natural wine and just
Yes.
like OG well-made
Yeah.
wine. And
Yeah.
inevitably you kind of like go in that direction because like
Yeah.
it does take skill and talent and a lot of heart and intuition and
Yeah.
feel. And I think if you've been making wine for any period of time, you're kind of going to want to go in that direction because it's a little
Yeah.
bit soulless to just be like, oh, I'm just going to like fine tune it and tweak it because it's not
Yeah.
reflective of like where it comes from, right?
Yeah. And let's be real too. The more we all get into wine, the more we care about texture in wine. And
And
man, just
farming.
that little bit of oxygen in there. Num, 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 num.
Yeah,
Good stuff.
exactly.
Yeah, but I hate it when we as an industry we make fads and then we ruin them and then we have to move on from them, and which really
Absolutely.
sucks because then people are scared to try it, or like even combative tastings where my I just want people to try as much wine as possible. I want people to like go out there, drink as much as you can, explore, drink all the things you think you don't like, because maybe you're wrong, maybe you'll like it again, maybe it'll change, you will change, different environment. And then because the way that we work as an industry, we're like constantly closing people in, we're pigeonholing them until they walk into the liquor store and they go Pinot Grigio.
Yeah.
And that's such a bummer, especially when I know how hard a lot of people in this industry work to make really really beautiful and interesting wines that aren't given any second thought because they're not Pinot Grigio or Sauvignon Blanc or Chardonnay
Hmm.
or Merlot or Pinot Noir.
Yep. But I mean, it's our job as industry professionals to educate, but not condescend or
Yeah,
talk
yeah,
down. And that's what I really work very hard to do. I try to find a point of connection and make it more emotional or
yeah,
symbolic or something. And exposing people to these amazing caliber wines that are right in front of them. Like here
mm,
in Toronto, 95% of people that come through and do tastings with me have absolutely no idea about what's happening in the Canadian wine industry. And it just blows my mind. And it's,
Yeah.
so indicative of like the bureaucratic structures that are in place that just like piss me
Yeah.
off too much. And like, that's kind of why I like that you were like, upward trolling instead of like shitting on the little guys, which is like so easy to do. Like, no,
Hmm.
let's take down these monoliths because they're wrecking it for everybody.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I don't want to drink mass produced Blanc. It's just,
No.
it's soulless.
Yeah.
So, but I thought it was interesting that you kind of have these beliefs, but you still kind of love to shit on natural wine. But I guess it makes sense now that you were shitting on the trend of it, which I understand.
Yes.
So,
Yeah. Yeah. Because I that definitely came across. It was a hard tightrope to walk of like, because like that goddamn Scout Riesling was
mhm.
amazing. God,
I,
I love that wine.
yeah,
That's low intervention
yeah,
and oxidative winemaking.
yeah,
It is the word natural wine really it squidges me out. I don't like that word
yeah.
at
No,
all.
it's an inappropriate term.
Yeah, it really is. It kind of implies that like it's that thing where you're removing the winemaker from nature. You're like saying, hey, the winemaker isn't part of this process.
Yeah.
And I'm a big believer in uh, terroir and environment's influence, not just on the grapes, but on the winemaker as well. I think that like the culture that the winemaker is a part of, the wines that the winemaker is drinking, the environment that the winemaker lives in, that all informs the wines that they are going to make. Because for
Mhm.
me, wine is very an artistic expression,
Yeah.
right? And so with any art, you're just kind of like stealing all these things you've seen, and then you're funneling it through yourself and your own point of view, and then you're throwing it out there.
Yeah.
And when we say things like, oh, because the winemaker decided he didn't want a Brettanomyces influence in this wine, that's no longer natural, and it just
Mhm. I
it's
know.
gross.
Well, and there, do you follow? I think his name is Will Kelly or
No.
William Kelly. He writes for, I can't remember. I don't know if that's his name, but he writes for Decanter, and he's also making his own wine in Burgundy. And he's
Mm,
like a Burgundy specialist. And his posts are incredible because he goes so deep. He's like, okay, everybody just sort of throws around this notion of terroir, but okay, well, what about it? How are you,
mm,
thinning your clusters? How are you pruning?
yeah,
Like, let's look at like, bunch size and exposure to sun and
yeah,
what's your soil looking like? And
yeah,
I thought I read that post and I was like, oh my God, why isn't anybody talking about
yeah.
this? Like, it's
What
just,
even is regional typicity anymore? I don't even know. I don't even know. It's all Calvin
why
Ball
is
now.
that? Why? And I remember I listened to Marissa Ross, her podcast ages ago, and they were rejecting typicity. And I was so insulted by it because that's kind of what I had been indoctrinated to
Yeah,
believe. And now I totally agree with you. I'm like, how the hell do we know what typicity is in our region? We're like 40 years old.
yeah, right.
We're like,
Okay, now we're into it.
so it's like, and then so then why is the VQA rejecting orange wine because it's like a little bit hazy or it's not
Yeah,
reflective of like the region because oh so we're supposed to just endeavor to make things that taste like everything else like
yeah.
that
Orange wine's not it is. Christ.
you don't like orange wine?
No, I love orange wines.
Oh,
I
okay.
do, but the VQA for until Anne like put herself out there to make that a
Yeah,
thing,
I know.
it like they were saying no because why? And then to find out that they haven't been screening properly for smoke taint for the last like 5 years.
Yep,
So that passes, but yeah, a little old school oxidator and like orange wine is not a new thing.
I know.
It has been around for a very long time,
That's the most baffling thing to me. It's like it indicates the ignorance of these people on the panel.
right?
Like that's what I've been trying to find out. Like, okay, well, who's sitting on the panels? You can only tell me so many times. Oh, yes, they're all accredited professionals. Well, who is it? Because
Yeah,
I have heard from people directly who sit on like the BCVQA panels who literally just reject wines from young up and coming winemakers because
yeah.
they just don't want to make room for them. And I'm like, this is so fucked up. Like,
Well,
why
because
are we dealing with this?
they don't like VA, so no one should like VA. Like,
Yes.
fuck off.
Yeah,
Every Pinot you've ever had has a little bit, and that's why it tastes so damn good.
exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's I mean, but that it really is what the problem with this industry boils down to is old rich white dudes,
Yeah.
and they have this whole industry completely throttled.
Yeah.
And it's because let's be real, wine is one of the earliest and most original tools of class warfare,
Hmm.
right? Like if you think back to England, France, Italy, their what wine you drank was dependent on your social class,
Yep.
right?
And that's still the case.
And it's exactly still the case. It's why it, bottle shots of Petrus or some kind of first growth Bordeaux on Instagram is the worst shit I have ever seen. Oh my God.
Yeah.
And then you get the Rolex in there, and it's like, yeah, dude, I bet you drink Grey Goose vodka too. Like, oh my
I know, which
Christ.
isn't even that good. Is it just by Kirkland? It's the same thing.
It's the same thing. It's literally the same thing. Oh, yeah.
I mean, I love drinking like amazing wine, but I don't have the budget for it. Like, and that's kind of why I drink Canadian wine because it's like
Yep.
also we need to support local more than ever as well. And it's like there's a small, I think, list of people that are actually making waves. The vast majority of it is very mediocre. But I
Mm.
mean, let's double down and like help them improve even more. Because like if
Yeah.
you look at where the wine industry has come in the last 10 years, it's
Yeah.
like my brain is imploding to see like where the caliber has come. Like I disdain for when I see articles like out of the New York Times where they call us the Napa of the North, and I'm like, okay, I don't think that we should
Yeah.
continue
How
to
about,
like emulate. Like we need
yeah,
to get
no.
out of this. We're okay. We're done. We're 40 years old now. It's time to grow
Yeah.
up, right?
Yeah.
But
Especially, I don't want to be compared to Napa. Well, I mean, things are different for us on the island because we're still kind of in those early stages, right?
yeah,
Although we just had our first incursion,
yeah, Kendall Jackson.
yeah, Kendall Jackson with Unsworth, which is
When I found that out, I was like, what?
wild. Yeah, although it's not officially, from what I understand, it's not actually Kendall Jackson. It's the owners of Kendall Jackson, which is like,
Oh,
there's
oh, there's a
kind of a
distinction there.
difference. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So that was the first big one. I've been waiting for that to happen since like 2008.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
really? And
yeah.
specifically?
No, not Unsworth, just one of the vineyards. I mean, because basically, like with Vancouver Island, every vineyard is always for sale. Like,
Yeah.
none of us aren't. Like I remember, how long did it take Hans to even sell Blue Grouse? It was like 6 or 7 years before Roger came in and picked it up. Um,
Oh, I love Bailey. He's such a sweetheart.
Bailey's great. Hey, so that was I got some DMs from the vineyard manager at Blue Grouse pretty much once I popped off, and that was there. The hardest part I think for me was because there are tons of people in this industry who I really like,
Yeah.
and I had to avoid their wines
Oh.
because I always knew I was gonna take the mask off,
Get on
and
them?
yeah, I mean the probably the sketch. Oh wait, no, that would be revealing who I work for. Okay, actually we're not gonna that. I often got requests to review wines that I helped make, and I
Oh,
could not.
really?
I could not. There was no way.
I know where you work.
Okay, yeah.
Brent told me.
It was
Brent literally
the
was like, Gary,
yeah, yeah, yeah. I've and Brent and I have only really like we hung out properly once when I took a couple friends of mine on a. They had never really done a wine tour of the Cowichan Valley back in the before times before the pandemic hit, and Brent just overheard that I was the tasting room manager at expletive blah 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 blah,
Mhm.
and he pulled us in and he started pulling barrel samples for us because I knew Andy quite well,
Oh,
Andy
okay.
and Wendy,
Yeah.
and they probably don't remember me that well because when they were always coming over for dinner, I was quite young, which was kind of my incognito thing. Is when I started, I was not basically, I was a teenager, so nobody paid a lot of
Yeah.
attention to me. But yeah,
Okay.
Brent.
Now
Go
that you're, sorry, just to interrupt. I just have this thought that I need to ask you on it. We're probably going to have to do a second link because now I've got you talking. I have so many more questions for you. But
I got all
who
day
was
apparently.
at the symposium when you were trolling me
Oh, which one was the symposium?
in Vancouver in February? And it was Bailey. It was all island winemakers. And
I
you sent
don't
me
think
a DM
I
and you're
don't think I
like,
had
oh,
anybody
that's a
there.
stimulating conversation. And I was like, lol, like, hey, cool story, BC wine memes. You're
No,
trolling.
I think that one was just me able to like kind of suss out who was there and what was happening. And then I could kind of be like, because I saw you guys were drinking the Coup de Tosh wines, right?
Yeah.
And then because I'm familiar enough with those wines, I just assumed that the Blanc de Noir would be there. And God, that's another brilliant wine. Oh man.
Oh, I know their wines are incredible.
Yeah, which is that is one of my favorite Cinderella stories that I've ever seen. Was
Yeah,
them getting away from Andy. As much as I like Andy, them
yeah,
getting away from Avril and getting to do their own things. I think they got to
true.
finally have some fun
Yeah,
and do
absolutely.
some
I
really
know
incredible
they're,
wines.
yeah. His name is, I can't remember his name right now.
I
Daniel.
just yeah, I just assume at all times that if I'm trying to remember a winemaker's name and I can't remember, it's Dan. I just assume it's Dan. And you're like 50% likely to hit on that one. It's like, oh, Dan. It's like, oh yeah, got him.
Unless it's Shiraz from Malivoire or something.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. No, I was I felt a little bit ignorant actually when I did the symposium because I was so, the whole support local,
Yep.
it's so tired and redundant, but it was fascinating. Like I actually felt really quite ignorant that I hadn't done a foray into
Yep.
like what you guys are doing. And actually it was Sean Nelson that recommended the winery that you work at as well. And I reached out, but I never heard back from anybody. So that would
Oh
have been
yeah, because small
had I
family
invited
business. You're
you,
not
right? You
like
could have come.
don't even try to email us because you will get no response. Especially right now, man. We are in the middle of it. It's yeah, they it's a whole thing. I mean, the truth with the island too is we've always kind of gone through ups and downs with our popularity in Vancouver. And you
Hmm.
can always tell when, we're hot again because like Shambar will be taking stuff
Yeah.
and Chin Chin will be taking stuff again and all of these kind of established Vancouver restaurants.
Yeah.
And then you go through like you'll do that for 2 or 3 years and all of a sudden it's like, oh, the island's not exciting anymore. So let's move
Which
on
is so
to,
stupid.
hey man, that's how wine lists work, right? Like you as a sommelier, you feel obligated to dance between establishing something and then staying new and exciting and you got to mix it
Mhm.
up every once in a while. And
Yeah, it's true.
yeah,
Cool.
especially with the staff turnover in that side of the industry. I
I
mean,
know.
there's like,
I hate the circle jerk. It
yeah,
drives me
it's
so
getting better. It's getting so much better. That's
glad.
even
I don't know
probably
about
the
that. I
I in Vancouver, I think it is. I
That hasn't been
one,
my experience, but I'm at the point now where I'm older. I just don't care. Like I'd rather just exist on the periphery and like
uh,
be the poking the bear. Maybe
yeah,
not quite to the extent that you do, but I'd rather talk about other things that people aren't talking about and
right,
be a little bit edgy and provocative because at
yeah,
least it gets conversations going. And I'm actually trying to address like real issues instead of just being like, hey, you guys, here's my 100-point score. Like
here's
just
my 15 rosés under $20.
yes, like I
My
used to
favorite
do
article.
that, and it's like bleh, like no thank you. And I'm finding that with like these sort of investigative, journalistic pieces is like it's what people actually want to read, and
Yeah.
what's happened now is that people are coming to me and they want to lobby together and actually try and take down some of these like structures that are really
Mm,
harming the industry. So coming up with like petitions, and I'm working on a panel for post harvest where it's only going to be small wineries and it's going to be probably 10 or so people, and we're going to talk about like a plan going forward, like how, and maybe I could do the same in BC in
mm,
time, like just sort of an incarnation of like the symposium that I wasn't able to do because of COVID. So
mm.
yeah, and that's why I kind of always sort of was like drawn to what you were saying, because you were saying a lot of the stuff that I was thinking, but I couldn't necessarily say myself. So, and I know that a lot of people agree with me. So,
Yeah. Well, I don't want to name names because I feel like I'm going to be like a scarlet letter at this point. Any sort of
yeah.
association with me is going to be bad. But there have been lots of sommeliers, industry professionals that have reached out to me through BC Wine Memes and
Mm.
just hearing what they have to say and seeing what they're doing at their restaurants and establishments.
Yeah.
I'm pretty amped as to the future of wine in
Yeah.
BC. There's another reason why I can't be angry anymore. I met so many cool people through this dumb project that I'm like, oh, okay, maybe things aren't as bad, or at least they're getting better.
Mm.
Um,
That's good though. That's nice to hear. Like you evolved and like you set out to kind of like, and you've accomplished what you set out to do. And
mhm.
now you're like, okay, what's next? Like
Yeah,
2.0. So what is next? Are you just going to retire the account or?
yeah. So I might the like 420 postmark is just so good. So no more memes. I might do some more
Bottle
bottle
shots?
taste. Yeah, I might do some more bottle stuff, but I don't know. We'll see. Um, it's going to be a while. I don't even know what my future is in the wine industry. I'm actually going to move on from my current place of employment. So we've already had that talk. They know that much. Because I just can't. I mean, the truth of it all is, and this might be the real shocker, the wine industry is not the industry I want to be in.
Oh,
This was kind of like I don't want to call it a backup job, because it's, for a while it's been my primary source of income, but for like the last 3 or 4 years it hasn't been.
mm,
And I feel more and more like someone who just really, really loves wine, and really, really likes the people who make it, but I don't know if I want to be involved in it
that's
anymore.
fair.
At least not in a production
Yeah,
standpoint.
yeah.
Um, like one of my friends, he was pushing me to do just like pop-ups, and that to me is even like, ugh,
It is.
organizing people.
It's a lot of
Oh,
work for very little return.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
I think I'd have
Cool.
more fun getting a shitty Volvo and driving people around the island and taking them to wineries. But even that, like, you can't really make money doing wine tours
No,
anymore
no,
either.
you can't. It's tough. It's a really challenging industry to make decent money in.
Yeah,
We're gonna do it for the passion, but that's okay.
yeah.
Okay, well, just about out of time. So thank you.
No worries.
This has
You
been
can, if
very
you have more questions, you can always DM me too, because
okay. I was like certain this was like a tactic or a ploy, and I was like gonna get trolled or like Brent
yeah,
Roland was gonna show up on
I
camera or
know. I
something.
felt really bad
Cool.
we might
Okay,
have
well
spoken
thanks
recently.
again and have a good night. And yeah, nice to finally meet you in person.